Welcome back to Digressions. My name is Justin Lincoln, and this is my vlog. And I'm back from a 5-6 day hiatus. During that hiatus, I dropped my son off in Los Angeles, USC, where he is going to school. And now, back at home without my son, I'm thinking a lot about my life and my future. And I'm thinking about this vlog, and I'm thinking about magic. I'm thinking about audiences, and I want to have a conversation with you. And this can be spread out over time, and I'd encourage you to reach out to me either in the comments or just drop me a line. And I guess I'll just get right into it now about thinking about the future and magic. And what I've been thinking about lately is about the connection between technology and magic or the occult. The occult being something that is kind of secret, or perhaps I might say underground. And I feel like a certain kind of programming strikes me as still strangely occult or occulted. It obscures things, and it also enacts things in ways that, despite programming being made generally out of logical systems, I think that there are intuitive ways of doing programming. I think that a lot of the current machine learning and AI is strangely intuitive. The fact that it hallucinates and makes odd connections works against the simple notion of logic. And I am not an anti-logic person, but I feel like logic itself becomes so prioritized that it becomes a kind of illusion to, in particular, in thinking about cause and effect. From the time I was a very young child, I used to play what I referred to as games with the universe. If this happens, then this happens. And it was a kind of magical thinking. There was no quote unquote logic behind it. But in a strange way, it was balancing out something about the notion of logic being cause and effect, especially in a lab, when the real world is not a sterile lab. The real world has so many causes and so many effects happening at any one time. Trying to isolate one cause and one effect just doesn't sound realistic to me. I think that it's important to take in multiple perspectives, and I feel like the occult perspective is one that, as I'm getting older and in some ways less beholden to what others or what some assumed authority judges. I think that the occulted, the obscured, and the secret perspectives need to be included, that this is a kind of inclusion that needs to happen, the inclusion of weirdos. And I feel that the phrase that comes from Shakespeare about there's more in heaven and earth than in our philosophy, this is something that we also have to apply to more than in our technology, or more than in our science, or more than our current perspective. I believe that there are forces and things that are more powerful and smarter than us as humans. And I'm not sure that we know how to see them or feel them, but if you are a sensitive person and if you are receptive and open, you may find yourself engulfed by these forces. And these forces are inhuman, they're unhuman, but they're very willful. And Freud talks about something that he called the oceanic feeling, something that he considered kind of feminine engulfing force. And in my mind, that also connects to archetypical forces that Carl Jung would talk about. And going back in time, we'd have the force of the genius or the daemon in Greek and Roman culture. But we don't have to confine ourselves to Western culture to think about these forces and how they work. I do think that they work through circuits that are much more complex than what we generally imagine. And I think if we realize or believe this, it's very humbling. And earlier this summer, I had a chance to confirm a story that I had heard from my father. And this story goes back to a time when he was in the special forces in Vietnam. And he worked with an indigenous people in Vietnam, the Montagnards. And these people believed in magic, and they had a shaman. And I think that my father and the rest of the American soldiers didn't think so. They didn't have a focus on, or I have no idea what they thought about the figure in the Montagnard culture of the shaman. But my dad had told a story that I heard when I was younger about how he had heard a rumor in his the tribe that he was staying with, that the local shaman had put a curse on someone in a neighboring tribe, a tribe that was perhaps 100 kilometers away. And he had heard this rumor and really not thought much about it until later on the radio he heard from someone who was stationed with that other tribe or that other group that in the middle of the day, this perfectly healthy person fell over dead. And it was the same person who had been cursed by the shaman in my father's village. And since my father was a soldier and the American soldiers were fighting a common enemy with this tribe, he tracked down the shaman and through an interpreter had a conversation with the shaman. My father basically said, look, if you can teach us, if you can teach the US soldiers to do what you just did, we could win this war. And the shaman replied, there are two problems with your plan. The first problem is you and your soldiers don't believe what we believe in this tribe, what I believe. And your enemy is not another tribe that we are fighting traditionally. It is a group of people that don't believe the same things that we do. And you have to believe the same things for the magic to work. And somehow that has always stuck with me. It's always been like the lodestone for my understanding of magic. It makes a kind of intuitive sense to me. It makes sense to me in terms of how art works, how media works, how advertising works. And it's important to find the people that are believing some of the same things that you are believing. And that's not to simply start a cult or a conspiracy or any of this, but it's important that even when you feel alone, you understand that you are part of a tribe. And this reminds me of a story that, or a lecture that one of my teachers in grad school played for us from a previous faculty member at the school. And this faculty member was a conceptual artist, Douglas Hubler. And Douglas Hubler said in this recording that he knew people that were trying to escape the art world from the art world. And he said that in a way he didn't buy it, because even if only one or two people in the art world know that you're operating that way, you're still a part of it. And he believed that the people that were functioning at the highest level in conceptual art, maybe 3 or 4 people might even understand what they're doing. And this is even true of people that were successes, that were making a living or having some success with it. And the message, or what I got from it, and I think what the teacher at the time, this would have been Shirley Say, I felt like what Shirley was trying to tell us, and what I took away from it, was that the worth of our art is not just about appealing to the most people. It is about finding the right people that need to hear or need to see what you are communicating. And somehow this seemed like a kind of magical aspect. And that's the part of art that has always attracted me to art making. And in my mind, it's what separates art from content. And it's strange now to be making these videos and to be a kind of content creator and to watch how many people are watching these videos or liking them or subscribing. The last I checked, I think I have 30 subscribers, and it's funny that I want to bring that up to 1,000 at some point, and I want to quote unquote monetize what I'm doing here. Though I don't know that that's so much about money, so much as it's about critical mass and feedback and finding the people. But if you're already watching, and particularly if you watch consistently, I want you to know that I value you and I want to hear from you. I want you to comment, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. And this particular video, which I think I will not try not to extend past 20 minutes. This is longer than I've done in a while. What I want to call this is the Magickal working part 1. And I'm kind of rating the things that I write in my notebook, random ideas. And I want to close with one more idea connected to the occult or to magic, but in my mind also connected to programming. And I'm going to come back to the tarot, and I wanted to talk about 2 cards. I'm going to talk about the 0 card and the 1 card. The 0 card is the Fool, and the 1 card is the Magician. The 0 card is intuitive, head in the clouds, and the 0 is in some ways outside of a system and walking through a system. Traditionally in the tarot, people talk about the Fool's journey. And the first step in the journey, number 1, is the Magician. And the Magician, instead of traveling, has a table and has resources and has the infinite in their head. And I think that the Magician is resourceful in a different way than the Fool. The Fool is Dionysus, and the Magician is Apollo. There is a structure here. There's a kind of programming. And I think about how binary code, which is at the base of programming today, is 0s and 1s. And while I'm learning the system of the tarot, I still get rather stuck on the 0-1 operation of these 2 figures, which to me seem like definitely the same figure and seem like parts of the same person. And that same person is both me, but it's also you. And I want to recoup not only the Magician, which has structure and resources and logic, but the intuitive leaps and walking off a cliff like a fool. And that's going to be it for today. I'll continue tomorrow. Welcome back.